Hello everyone, I'm doing another video today, and this one's going to be about the NWO and how they use people to hide bodies, and also about the curious tale of Donald Marshall and the Robert Picton or the Picton Brothers pig farm in Canada. Apparently the Canadian government paid for it. They gave them a $10 million mortgage without any payment plan to pay it back, and it was interest free. Can you imagine that? And so there's some weird stuff around that. So we're just starting off here with this book by David McGowan. It's called Program to Kill: The Politics of Murder. And here's some names of some famous serial killers. I I would have to say, I bet a lot of I would like to know how many of these people were in the military. All of these serial killers, all these people. And so he makes a claim. As you can see, here's the back of the book. But David McGowan, fantastic book. And unfortunately, the guy on the cover, it's a body. And you can see it. It's a satanic cross. So these ritual homicides take place all the time. They use their enemies or the children of the families that they belong to, that they breed on purpose. They have breeders. And when they do kill them, they have to dispose of the bodies. And so that's kind of where we're going with in this video. Um, in this book, David McGowan talks about quite a few serial killers who didn't. There seems to be some anomalies around whether they actually killed all the people, or that they killed even more, or that there were more bodies, and did they kill them all? I think that was the point. And anyway, they ended up getting caught with bodies, or getting caught killing people, or they're just turned in. Their time was up as far as their practicality, their usefulness, their purpose, as far as the NWO is concerned. And either way, whenever they go to court, if they ever make it to court, they're completely railroaded, and that's so. In other words, no matter what, they're going to be guilty, and then they're also guilty in a court of public opinion. They use the MSM, and they highlight serial killers. They almost glorify them in movies, and you'll find out also in the underground tortured clone chambers that they do glorify serial killers. They use them. They're body hiders. They're just like the movie Snatch, where the arch villain, I forget his name now. God, do you know who I am? That guy, he says, always beware of a man who has a pig farm, because a pig can go through a body in 15 minutes, a full-grown body. And I'll tie that in. So let's go down here to Mr. Marshall, Donald Marshall. And he's going to talk about the Brownsville, I guess the Brownsville murders, and he's also going to talk about Robert Picton and their brothers. Hold on, let's come back to that real quick. Robert Picton farm.
According to Wikipedia, Robert William Picton is a Canadian serial killer and former pig farmer.
And so beware of, that's a victim, I'm afraid. So he was killing prostitutes, apparently with a ball peen hammer. Here's the farm. And if you go to Wikipedia, I use Google, again, I'm using Google and all these like mainstream search and story sites, news sites, because they're the enemy and they won't tell us the real truth. But it's interesting that the truth, they have to tell us the truth sometimes, so it's out there. They just don't want you to go and find it. Anyway, so they only got him for 6 counts of murder, apparently. I don't know. He confessed to 49. So I'm not totally familiar with this guy, but it'll show here that even, let's see, Well, you can go and look this up yourself. I thought I saw a thing where it showed that the Canadian government did actually give him that farm. They basically gave him that farm. I mean, they're going to call it a government grant, but he never paid a single penny on it. It was $10 million. And apparently there's a movie because they glorify this guy in the underground, as we're about to find out. So I'm sure there was many more. Because when they have these satanic rituals, they're killing people, and sometimes a lot, and they have to hide the bodies. And as we know from Rabbi Finkelstein, who admitted that we're the enemy somehow. The war on white people is what it's called, but it's the war on Christianity, the war on decency. It's the satanic war against God, those of God's people, us, those who, are goodly and godly, or at least try to be, and they feed us back to them. They feed the bodies of their dead back to us. That's what Rabbi Finkelstein says in his own words. We can go check that out in a little bit, but let's go down here into what Donald Marshall has to say. And
the cloning station, like the Brown something massacre, Brownsville massacre down in Texas somewhere. Well, that was all about them.
And here we go, the Brownsville murders. This had Bush and Kerry all over it. And look how the mainstream media spins it. Bush refuses to dignify mass murder allegations. If you got mass murder allegations against you, we don't give a crap if you refuse to answer it or not. You should be made to answer it. This guy got off easy. Somehow he died. Now remember, when he died, his flag was crinkled on his casket. That guy can go to hell. Screw the Bush regime, the sheriffs. Anyway, back to Donald.
The cloning station, like the Brown something massacre, Brownsville massacre down in Texas somewhere. Well, that was all about them. The Children of the Fold got murdered, a big religious cult. They all got murdered and chopped up. Well, the Fold was the cloning station, and they were going there and getting freaked on by a bunch of elderly, rich perverts. And then
the Bushes, John Kerry, probably the Clintons. I mean, the list is endless. You wonder why nothing happens? Why justice is never served in America or any other countries? Because people like these go to these cloning chambers and they do whatever they like. They're above the law, or so they think.
Didn't want to anymore. And they said, leave us alone. We have computers. We're going to tell all about the Fold. And they went there, killed them all. The Pickton stuff was really unsettling, disturbing.
Okay, so here we go with Robert Pickton.
Because, well, Elizabeth wanted to be real close on hand to me because everybody wanted to look at me, talk to me. And I was like focused on with the spotlight there at this place because I did these songs and different money-making ideas for different people. So she always wanted to be around me to get in on the spotlight. She's like that. She's like a camera hand for all the celebrities that are there. So she was always around me. The thing is, she said to strengthen my mind, she wanted me to watch all of the Pickton murders. And they had a camera in the corner of the room.
I think he's talking about Queen Elizabeth, the nefarious lizard queen, and she wanted him to watch all the Pickton murders. Okay, so what that tells us is that they had filmed it, or he was filming it, which they often do because they sell the snuff movies. They sell the movies of murders. They trade them amongst each other. They love to watch it. That's how sick these people are. A lot of them are reptiles, possibly clones. The ones that have sold their souls basically to Satan. They're soulless, godless freaks. Here we go.
Where he did these murders, the thing was he would walk a woman, the hooker, over to a painting on the wall, facing that way, and say, do you like this painting? My brother painted it for me. Put his arm around the woman, and with his other hand, he'd reach in back of his pants and pull out a ball-peen hammer and smack her right in the back of the head. And that was it. And he used to almost have to give her like 2 or 3 or something. And one time, one of the hookers got him. I'll tell you about that some other time or something. But he got them all. He said, I asked him one time at the cloning station, because they would bring him there and ask him what it was like and everything. And like he was a celebrity or something. It was weird. And they're all trying to act evil like they're vampires or something. And he would talk and stuff. And I asked him, they asked me if I had any questions for him. I said, why a ball-peen hammer? And he said, well, normal hammer has a claw on it, carpenter's hammer. And if I had to do a second strike, the claw might get hooked on somebody's clothing, one of the girls' clothing, and it might, when on my drawback, it might hook on, then he's ruined because he was just a skinny old man. And, yeah, but Elizabeth used to make me watch them. They have 2 big screens at the cloning station over the stands.
Queen Lizard Breath.
One on either side, right? So that people in the stands can look both ways. Well, a lot of people can't watch them.
Okay, again, this is, they turned the palaces of pleasure and the palaces, they've turned the underground cities into basically these stadiums where they all convene and they're forced to watch, these evil murderous acts, and they all act really evil, and they all have to act evil and more and more evil to try to get to the top, to try to ply their way up to the top for influence in these underground chambers. They might be there in person, or quite often they're there in their clone body.
A lot of people want to act evil so they'll feel safe there, because the more evil that you are, the more they're going to leave you alone. So there's people, man, they psych themselves into believing that they're evil too, just so that they'll feel safe, because they've seen these lizards and people getting tortured and killed, and they don't want any badness on them. So they try to act even more evil than the other people that are there. But yeah.
So how does this relate to you being afraid that they're going to kill you, but also saying that they can't?
Well, the thing with the can't, they're saying.
Well, okay, let's move on. Okay, so that's what he was talking about, the Picton murder. So now we've established that Robert Picton is in the underground chambers, and Queen Elizabeth, okay, is down there. And this is his claims, right? And this is years ago, right? And we know that Queen Elizabeth is a reptile. They're like the lead reptile interface of the populace. They're the control factor for almost the whole world. That's the reptile nation, this evil reptilian nation that's completely against us. Now, I don't know if all reptiles are bad, these humanoid reptiles. I assume that some of them don't want to do all this stuff, but at the same time, this is their culture. This is what they do. They bring this culture to the surface, and you can see this in all the violence and all the ghettos and that culture of gang violence that permeates all through the South America, all the states, all the countries south of America, and it's moving into America by the droves. That's why they want to open up the borders. They want to bring these godless, soulless, people, terrorists, basically in. They're the Satan's army. They're zombies. They're the replacements, or what they call the war against white. But really, it's just the war against civilization. It's the war against civility. It's what the noble class of people that were here before left us, and they've destroyed everything. The Freemasons, and there's a certain demographic behind them that I'm not allowed to talk about. Their entire goal is to get rid of Tartaria, and Tartaria was the last highest point of civilization of man here on Earth. So we're there. Robert Picton is with the reptile, Queen Elizabeth herself, in the underground cloning chambers, doing nefarious acts, and then allowed to be given a farm at the taxpayers' expense in Canada. And you're saying, well, they didn't give it to him, did they? Well, let's go and see. Oops.
He never went on the speaking tour, but he did go to a public school where he was a part-time drama teacher and he worked for less money. But
talking about the other queer, Justin Trudeau. This guy is, he's like, here we go. He's a pedophile. And we can go to Kevin Arnett's YouTube channel, who speaks for the nation, the first settlers, I think they call them in Canada, or the first people. And he talks about all the children that go missing. It's no secret that children go missing everywhere, especially in America. Something like 8 million a year or something, or 800,000 a year. I don't know what it is. It's a phenomenon. It's so big, and I don't even know the number. That should be the biggest story on the internet, and it's no different in Canada and every other country on earth. And it's because it's facilitated by this clown freak. Look at this guy.
Recently, I think just last week, paid.
Clown freak is what I said. I just can't stand this guy. He's Castro's son. He should be castrated. Castro-stated. Anyway, I'm sure he's not around anymore. I don't know why the so-called white hats, quote unquote, are allowing this to keep going. I mean, there's a secret underground war going on between these secret societies, and so we don't get any information. But here we go.
Woman who was a student there, $2.5 million for a non-disclosure agreement. Now, why would he pay an ex-student of his $2.5 million? Nobody.
Because he's a pedophile. And he paid the parents off. What parents would take that money? I would take that money and spend every last dime freaking hunting this guy down.
knows, but now it's come out that he was caught in a student's house by the girl's father, and this girl was much younger than 17. So that's been hidden quite well, but they probably paid the parents off too.
Well, he doesn't.
$2.5 million.
I think we talked about this a little bit before, but he doesn't seem like the kind of person to have a heterosexual sex scandal.
Well, I know he seems a little light in the loafers.
Yeah, he does. No,
Yeah.
a lot.
The Minister of Finance, they couldn't get money to defend the Picton brothers. So DCIMC, British Columbia Investment Management Corporation, gave the Picton Pig Farm a $10 million mortgage with no interest.
Well, let's listen to that again.
Gave the Picton Pig Farm a $10 million mortgage with no interest and no repayment schedule. Then Carol Taylor somehow, she got that changed around, so it was the BC government giving the mortgage. Now what's up with that?
Yeah. Well, it's just reminding me so much of Epstein.
Yeah, and the more you look at it, the weirder it gets. So, that a pension management fund is giving a pig farm a $10 million mortgage.
But last time,
Because they're all in on it. It's the secret handshake club, and they're all Satanists because they want to do whatever they want. They don't want to do what God wants them to do, and they sacrifice animals, children, human beings, their enemies, quite often themselves too, to these dark spirits, so that they can get these dark spirits to come around and they can get information. This is how they rule the world, because these dark spirits are out of time, and they can tell them what to do to create and amass their power, political power and the like. And so that's why they sacrifice to them. I mean, even in Hillary's emails, it talks about, I'm going to go into the backyard and sacrifice a chicken to Moloch. That's in her emails. All right, so let's listen.
we talked also, I asked about
By the way, this is Linda Paris. I just got it on Telegram, so.
children. And you were talking about the native population, and I don't think we recorded this part or not. I'm not sure. But maybe we just talked about it. But Yeah, the local native children were disappearing.
Yeah, yeah, the local native children, and one of the a chief out there of one of the Indian bands, he was, incensed, and he was trying to get to the bottom of it. And these prostitutes were disappearing from the east side of Vancouver. Well, his daughter was a lawyer in the east side of Vancouver, and his daughter ended up as the Attorney General of Canada, Jody Wilson-Raybould. So Jody Wilson-Raybould is she's a First Nations woman, and she's the first woman Attorney General in Canada, and she's the first.
This is the Picton murders and the Picton farm. That's probably one of the Picton brothers up there, top right, showing off his chains. Anyway, carry on.
Nations Attorney General, and we have a company up here called SNC Lavalin, and they were involved in human trafficking. They spent almost $2 million entertaining the Gaddafi brothers, the sons of Gaddafi, trying to get contracts in Libya, and that involved prostitutes, drugs, liquor, and that's against the law in Canada. And if you are found guilty, your company is found guilty of that, you do not get any government contracts for 10 years. So there's a lot at stake. So what they were doing was Trudeau and his people were pressuring Jody Wilson-Raybould constantly. She did record a couple of her conversations, and which I have on a thumb drive, by the way. And she ended up resigning from the positions. She said she couldn't break the law for Trudeau, and it didn't matter how many jobs were at stake. And then Trudeau had her drummed out of the Liberal Party, so she was kicked out. And we just had an election, and she got back in as an independent. So that's the part where I come in, and because the RCMP would not charge Trudeau with obstruction of justice, I did. So it's all connected.
Interesting. So what we've established is years ago, probably almost 10 years ago now, a man comes out, Donald Marshall, claims to be in the underground chambers, claims that he wrote a lot of songs. Then if you go back even further, back into the 80s and 90s, he's on an album cover being murdered. For Dave, it was a Dave Mustaine Megadeth album cover. You guys go look that up. He in the underground chambers of all the things that he saw, he was with Queen Elizabeth, who we've established, and many more people have established the fact that she's a lizard and part of this reptile nation. David Icke being the main proponent of that, the original. It goes much farther back than that. You can go to Africa and listen to some of the medicine men talk about that. The reptiles, the reptile humanoids that rule us from the shadows and from out a space in between time. I forget the guy's name, Mukta or something. And then, so while down there with Queen Elizabeth, he meets Robert Picton. We have a guy, David McGowan, who writes an entire tome. It's things like, let me see, it's at least 400 pages thick, talking about how serial killers are really government agents, or they were in Project Phoenix, which is learning how to bring terror to your enemy, which included satanic rituals and the like, torture and mass murder. We've got serial killers like the guy that ate everybody, Dahmer. Okay, Dahmer put the bodies backwards, upside down, with all the joints backwards, You've got Tony Podesta's art, who mimics that. I've established that the Chilean witch trials talk about how the witches, who are actually in a court of law at the turn of the century, 1920s era, in Chile, were forced to go to court, brought up on charges of murder, witchcraft, and the like. And in those trials, they talked about the Imbuche, who Imvuche. Oops.
Here's the definition.
Oh God, Google's so stupid. Okay, hold on. The Imvuche, okay, is a being that's totally turned around. It's a magical creature. They would steal kids. Again, here's the theme of kids. This is Pizzagate, guys. Okay. They take the kid, they steal the kid, they turn the kid totally around. All the joints, 100%, 180 degrees. Okay, so why is Tony Podesta and Jeffrey Dahmer mimicking all that? Because this is some sort of black magic, okay? This is, and these are some of the monsters that come out of the underground. We've actually filmed it. I could probably find a photo of it. I'm sure I've got it in here somewhere. I have to go way down here. I should have that brought up. Let's see. Well, okay, so I have it somewhere. I'll show it on another video. But anyway, so we've established all that, and then we got a pig farm. So basically, the government steals children for whatever nefarious purposes that they need, because Satanism, all the rituals that they use, they need so many people. They need a lot of bodies, and they use every part of the body. So it becomes an industry. We've got Rabbi Finkelstein talking about cannibalism. Okay, so of course Google will try to give you the first page about how they're lying, but okay, so they're gonna call it a hoax, but really, if you go listen to Abraham Finkelstein, he's on a radio show, and he talks about killing the goy and feeding it back to us. You know, I guess that's everybody that's not satanically Jewish or whatever that is. Well, you can go check that out. And Queen Elizabeth and the missing children in Canada. See, they always put these articles first, right? Oh, the Queen was not involved in it. And yet the claims are still there. School children, 1964. Why not use these articles that are trying to debunk? And anytime you hear the word debunk, that's another coined PSYOP term, COINTEL PSYOP term, that's basically trying to hide or smear the truth, okay? But all this definitely happened, okay? So these children, and the Kamloops children, that's right, they all disappeared. Queen Elizabeth walked out there, those children never returned with her. She took all these native children out into the I guess forest, and they probably killed and ate them all. Kevin Arnett. And here we go. Kevin Arnett is, I like to find him on his YouTube. Kevin Arnett, YouTube. See if I can find him. Yep.
Hello, this is Governor Ron DeSantis. Joe Biden came into office and declared war on America.
Okay, so Kevin Arnett. Sorry. Okay, so
ever since the discovery
have committed genocide, the world community is obligated to prosecute and punish. And those are the two words in the UN Convention on Genocide: prosecute and punish. And what it says is, when the government is not willing to conduct a credible investigation, then it's up to the citizens and to the world community.
And he's totally right. So he's talking about the children that have gone missing. So here we tie it all together. And as you can see, Google working overtime to try to quote unquote debunk. And remember, don't ever fall. Anytime anybody uses that, truthers, we don't ever use the word debunk. I won't use their terms. I won't use their 1984 newspeak terms. I want to strangle every last one of them. But we're not allowed to, because we would get caught up on charges of violence and, and whatever else. But if it was up to me, we should be all armed up in a mass. This is the new world war. We should be going out against every last one of these Illuminati clones, clones and clowns. It's interesting that those sound so similar. Anyway, I don't want to get all into that because I took a vow of nonviolence anyway. But once again, it's Satan taking advantage of God's goodliness. And I really don't know what the solution is. We're all hoping that something's happening. I don't want this to go too sideways, Dean. I just wanted to show that that connection is there. And it's a pretty strong connection if I can just go on Google and find all that stuff. So anyways, guys, have a great day, and trying to keep all these things to about 25, 30 minutes. So, all right. Hopefully see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.